pretty much similar, like some stuff going through and some stuff not. So yeah.
I totally get you, and I feel a bit like that as well. I actually feel a bit guilty, to be honest, but at the same time, I think last year ended so late. We had so much going, so not a bad thing. Anyway, so we are here and live. I'm just going to also pop a record so we can keep a recording of this. I know it's going to be on YouTube, but I'm going to save it as well. So welcome to the Marketing Lifeline's Friendly Friday with people and entrepreneurs who just like to come and share alike. And today we are joined by Chris Colbe from Live to Dream, who is probably more experienced in this kind of capacity, being an MC in many places. And I've obviously worked with him with ProTech. So it's nice to have you as a guest. And I'm sure for yourself, it's quite different to be a guest as well. So thanks so much just to you for joining us on this Friday. And we look forward to what you have to share with us.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me. Yes, it is a bit strange. I'm normally the one behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons and running the show. So it's nice to sit back and relax and be interviewed for a change.
Okay, I don't know if you're going to do any relaxing, because I'm going to just be asking the questions. But I look forward to it because we're both marketers. We love what we do. And it's always so nice to have another expert marketer on the show. And yeah, so we've got some cool questions. So before we get on to that, I just want to do a kind of more formal introduction for our guest today, Chris. So Chris studied BCom marketing at the University of Stellenbosch. He's a former professional radio presenter and has a love and passion for marketing. Over the last 17 years, he has gained experience in every type of business and industry as possible. I won't ask what exact industries. Chris is a solutions-driven person that approaches things from all angles to find the way. He's passionate about marketing and making a difference through assisting companies and entrepreneurs embrace marketing, understand it, which I love that one, and be able to implement it effectively, allowing them to live to dream. So awesome buy. I love the fact that you have worked in a number of different industries. As I said, I don't want to maybe divulge into what type of industries, because you've specifically said every industry. And also your passion to help entrepreneurs and get them to understand marketing. So that's why the topic today, we kind of stuck a little bit more generically to some marketing questions. And I'm sure Chris has some nice insights to share with us. So let's kick off and learn a little bit more about Chris. Although you've given us a short bio, tell us a little bit about Chris and how Live to Dream came about, and what was your passion behind that?
So I'll do a very quick synopsis. Born and bred in Johannesburg, South Africa, made a big leap at the age of 14 to a small Afrikaans town called Malmesbury, which was a nice adjustment in life and culture shock, but learned the language very quickly. Went to a fantastic high school there. After that, went to Stellenbosch University, not an academic. I hated it. I needed to find something to keep sane while I was doing my studies. So got the opportunity to broadcast on the student radio station, MFM. And I tell you what, it was love at first broadcast. I love my marketing and I'm very passionate about it, but that will always be my first one true. So I finished my studies and carried on at the campus radio station, then moved into commercial radio. I was there for 5 years. And unfortunately, it is, especially in South Africa, it's a very small industry with limited options. And I worked really hard and cut my teeth and did my part and did the commercial radio, which was what I set out to do. And then I decided, look, I've got to be an adult at some point to get a real job. So went back to the marketing roots and worked across various different industries. And also, I mean, working in the radio industry, you get quite a bit of experience with marketing as well. People tend to forget that because as a broadcast medium, everything about it actually is about marketing, how you market yourself, how the radio station markets itself, your big campaigns, et cetera, et cetera. So also great insight there. And then, I worked in corporate for a long time. Even commercial radio is a corporate environment. And yes, I reached a point where I was working myself into an early grave, making other people rich, and it wasn't going to benefit me at the end of the day. I wasn't spending time with my family. I was had a young son. I wanted to be able to spend more time with him and look after him better. And at a very young age, I had a heart attack. So as a result of stress from corporate, a true story, the company, I was in cardiac ICU from my heart attack, and the company was still calling me and asking me to get my laptop out and do work. And that was a big wake-up call and saying, no, wait, hang on. There's got to be more to life. So I've always been entrepreneurial as well at heart, and I just decided 2020 is going to be the year. Opened my business on the 7th of January 2020, having resigned a very decent paying, stable job. And couldn't have picked a better time, I guess. It's been a rough 2 years, but I've learned so much, I've grown so much. And in actual fact, yes, it's been hard. Yes, it's taken longer than what it normally would to start up a business, but I wouldn't have had it any other way, because from that trial and tribulation and continuing with that sort of natural personality of, well, I won't give up and I'll find a way. I'm here still 2 years later for my business, which is that first big hump you got to get over, and really excited for the future moving forward.
Sure, and I think if you launch during COVID, you can only survive. And if you survived COVID yourself, you launched your business in COVID, you can only go from strength to strength. That is a really, really good story to be told. So I wish you all the best in your business. And I'm sure this year, as most of people have also said to us, it's going to be a good year. It's an even number. COVID is a little bit behind us because we're kind of like over it, and we get into the point that we're kind of accepting it as a flu. And I'm kind of agreeing with people. So I agree 2022 is going to be a fabulous year. So let's talk a little bit about the beautiful term marketing. So many entrepreneurs, I feel, don't really understand it. I think because it's such a broad topic, so we don't blame them. But tell us a little bit about what is your take on marketing, and maybe what is it all about?
Well, I always joke, ironically, as an industry, we're absolutely terrible about marketing our own industry and people understanding it and doing what we do. I've never been able to understand it. It seems so complex, yet at the same time, it can be very simple and basic. And from my point of view, is because so much has changed, because there's so much going on, there's so much confusion and chaos and things. I always believe go back to the basics in the most simplest forms. And what I learned and studied is, in its very basic form, marketing is identifying somebody's need, whether they're aware of it or not. It's a seen or unseen need, and providing a solution for that need. At its very basic core, that is what marketing is. The rest builds onto that. So marketing isn't just social media or a logo or pretty pictures or videos. It's really at its core and base, the heart really of a business, just as important as finance and anything else, manufacturing, the whole process. Because if you don't have a product that meets somebody's needs, then you don't have a market, you're not going to be able to sell it. If your price point is out, all of those kind of things. So always stick to the basics, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that complicated.
Totally. So I think that is a big thing that often people say to me is, and you probably get it as well, is my marketing isn't working. Then I'll be like, okay, can you just explain to me, what do you mean by that? Then they would typically say, my Facebook is not getting any new likes, or my emails are not getting attention. Then I'm like, okay, we kind of classify that as advertising. So as you said, marketing is actually taking quite a few steps back and starting, as Chris has said, identifying a need and then developing hopefully your product or service around that. You can do it the other way. I guess all of us go through that process, but totally getting to understand marketing as it is. It's a mammoth thing. It's made up of a whole lot of different parts. There's thousands of us in the industries. You've got the likes of Chris and I, who kind of more strategic. Then you've got your website developers, you've got your content writers, you've got your social media people, you've got your SEO specialists, you've got your branding specialists. So totally, I get it that entrepreneurs like, what is marketing and where do I even start? So as Chris said, go back to the basics. What is the need and what is the product offering that you can give? So love that, because often people have quite a different perspective about marketing. So as we've just said, marketing doesn't have to be a science, and doesn't have to be complicated. As you said, going back to the basics is actually all that entrepreneurs really have to do.
And I think it's also
encourage them.
Important to mention now is also, you've got that idea, it's the need and the solution that you provide for that. Now, what you also need to look at with your marketing is, what are you trying to achieve with it? Are you just purely chasing sales? Then your marketing strategy and your advertising and all of that works in a very specific way for that. If you're looking to build a brand over time and brand recognition, there's another avenue. So you've really got to decide what your plan and strategy is and what you really want to ultimately achieve with your marketing. And that'll also help define, right, what basics do you start with and what do you build from there?
Awesome. Thanks for that. And maybe then that can come into our next kind of question as well, as a bit of an add-on. So maybe you can share with us, I normally ask for 3, but I think because we're on such a broad topic, I've kind of said, give me 3 to 5 things that entrepreneurs should know or need right now in their business to help them move forward with their marketing.
So I'm going to give 4. And it's the first basic 4 P's of marketing. Yes, there's a lot of them, but if you don't have those first 4 in place, then the rest won't work so well. So the first one is, look at your product or service as your product. So you know the need, you know the solution. Does the product or solution you're providing, your service, however it is, meet that need? Is there still a market even for that? I mean, the world has changed so much in the last 2 years. Something that you might be providing may no longer be applicable. People may not want it. A horrible example is your eventing companies. That original setup of, well, we got a corporate and they want to do an event, and we book a venue and we do this, and everybody's together and it's a big party and all of those things that go with it. It's not really that applicable anymore. Yes, that's going to pick up again, but it's always going to be different. It's always going to be changed. So if that's your industry and what you do, you really need to go back to the product and look at where it needs to be changed. Then your pricing, your price points, those also would have changed over the last 2 years. The target market that you identified, their financial situation has changed, and your industry would have changed as well. So you've got to decide what your pricing strategy is and where you fit in the market and where your target market is at the moment, to see if you need to adjust that and work with it. Place. The place has changed. You and I are doing a live Zoom recording now. Everything's changed. And
you're in Cape Town, I'm in Durban.
Exactly. And last night I had a meeting with people in Canada and the US, and so your place has changed as well. There's a lot of dynamics that change with that. Yes, you might not have a physical office anymore, but you've got to build still a virtual building so that you're still credible, which is like your website and your presence on Google and all of those things and all your graphics that goes with that. And then there's other challenges of how do you still deliver your product or service to the people and the logistics behind it. So look at your place again. And then look at your promotion and really have a hard look at the promotional channels that you're using for your business or your industry. It might not be appropriate. Everybody jumped on the bandwagon in the last, I would even say 3 years. It started happening just before COVID. They all went to social media people and said, tell me your package, great, sell me your package, and I'm just going to all jump onto social media. Look, your big companies with big budgets, they did that before you did. They're way ahead of the curve. There's so much noise there. It's very difficult to stand out. Yes, you do need to do it, but do you need to invest as much as you do? There are other channels. There are other promotional ways of advertising yourself, getting yourself out there, getting your message out there that might be better for your business and more appropriate. And it takes a little bit of research and thinking about it, or getting somebody's advice specifically for you in your industry. And those all tie in together as what I like to call like an ecosystem of success. You get those 4 cogs working nicely together, and then you can add another one, because each one feeds into the other one and they feed each other at the end of the day. And remember, if you don't know who you are, who your target market is, what your unique selling point is, Why start with advertising? Because then what are you going to put on there? Because you don't know who you are. So if you don't know who you are, how are you supposed to communicate that effectively to your target market and to people? Because they won't understand just as much as you don't understand. So that's why it's important. Those first few basics, right? When it comes to promotion, have that promotional message and plan in place. If you want to push sales, then yeah, your promotional channels will be different. If you want to build a brand, definitely your investment and your time will be spent on other things. If you want to maintain your current database, your client database, and not lose more of them, if that's your main strategy, then you do something else. Really, really have that plan in place.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And I think it just goes back to a very key pain point that we probably often hear, and you may even feel it sometimes, is you feeling frustrated and overwhelmed about social media and you don't know what to actually say. So just that, if you're feeling that, then that means you haven't got the clarity. So go back to these 4 steps, as Chris has said, looking at your product or your service, looking at your price, or firstly, is your product or price, the product or service even relevant, as he said, then matching the price accordingly. Where are you being positioned? Are you online? Are you brick and mortars? What are you doing? Are you international? Are you local? And then lastly, promotion, as he's also mentioned, very relevant to your specific objective. I think when you've got those 4 P's set in stone, that clarity will start being kind of come to life. You'll start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. You maybe won't feel so overwhelmed showing up on Facebook. And that's why I love the fact that you said that is kind of people come up with a product idea or business solution, show up on social media, and then they're like, but what do I have? Like, what do I say? Okay, let me just talk about my business. And that's not what you want to do, right? Because then people are not going to look at what you've got to say, because people really don't care about you. They only care about themselves. So rather get to understand them so that you can create content for them.
What they
love
need
that.
and they're looking for.
Absolutely. I can see Chris and I studied very similar times, because I'm also a big fat believer of 4 Ps. And sometimes I still like pull it out in meetings, and I'm like, I wonder if this gives my age away. But it's just so important. And as you said, actually, it's just such a fundamental part of a business. If you haven't got that, that is a definite point of call to start. So then on to the next question. So one of my favorite topics, as I actually wanted to talk just about customer experience today. And Chris is like, let's talk a bit about back to basics, because we're here to empower and inspire entrepreneurs. And just really because I like it, because it gives us the ability to design the customer experience and give them that desired brand market experience that customers can get from it. Because why? We've understood what their need is, we've understood who the customer is, so we know exactly who they are and what they like. So now we can actually guide them along and give them that experience they want from us. So just share with us, what are your thoughts around customer experience, and where could entrepreneurs be adding value? Because that is a big thing. I feel it gives us ability to be unique and stand out, but yet so many people forget about it. Everyone just hops on and does the same thing that everyone else is doing, and also doesn't really always differentiate you. So I just feel there's some opportunities on how we can add value through this customer experience and or journey. I look forward to having you share your ideas and where we can possibly add some value, Chris.
And that's why it ties into those basics as well, because your customer journey, all 4 of those P's covers that customer journey. So a very silly basic example is, say you've got a cheap, cheerful product. It's an import. It's not meant to last very long. It's supposed to be a cheap product that you do economies of scale, sell lots of them, low profit margins, and that's what it is. But you promote yourself, and your pricing point is as a quality premium product. Now, you're going to spend all that marketing effort, all that time and sales time selling a cheap, cheerful product at a premium price as a quality product. What's the customer journey going to be like? Well, they're going to say, well, I didn't get what I was promised and what I actually was looking for, because it's a badly made product or whatever the case may be. So there's your customer journey destroyed already, because the expectation has not been met and the solution hasn't really been provided properly. And it'll cost you so much more to get that customer back and a new customer, having lost them through a bad customer journey like that. So the important things is make sure that your customer journey runs smoothly, they get what they expect, what they need, what they're promised, and that it's a happy experience for them, because you're going to do all this work, get that sale in, get that customer on board, or client, whatever the case may be, and then you lose them because something along the process fell through the gap. And again, depends on your business. If you're a big multinational corporation, yes, it will be a very complicated setup that you write down, and there'll be teams that work on it, and huge big cogs working in that one. But if you're relatively small to medium enterprise, even as a solopreneur, rather have something than nothing. And you find what works for you, because I could say, look, there's this software, you can use it, you spend hours doing things and looking at it and feeding it into it, and get this beautiful graphic at the end of the day. And is that really worth all that investment to do? Might even be good to simply draw it with a pen and paper out from beginning point all the way to the end point, and start there. Just start somewhere, map it out as basically as you can, and you can always improve on it and add onto it, and choose, okay, so I've done the basic mapping out. I'm going to look at the purchase process, if that section, and then you go and look at that specific one in depth and put some points below. But always start with something. Rather have something, and something simple and basic, than nothing at the end of the day.
Agreed. Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for sharing that with us. And I think just to add to that it's that letdown. I think we all feel the same. I guess it's like arriving at a beautiful building and you go into this awesome restaurant and you sit down, and maybe even your meal is amazing, and then you get to the end and you have a really shoddy dessert. And so, it's just, you kind of have this build up, and then you kind of have that letdown, and the chance of that person then coming back is not likely. So all we're saying is understanding that customer journey through those 4 Ps, managing the process. So please, if you're going to invest time and money in onto your website, and in your website with content and graphics, but potentially your Facebook page looks like it hasn't been seen to, you haven't posted on it regularly, how do your channels kind of all fit together? Typically, what would the customer journey be? And would he feel that you are answering his questions at every point, and possibly giving him a solution or a call to action that can help him along the way? That's all we just mean from a customer experience point of view. It's how does he engage and experience your brand, from reviews to testimonials to how your website looks, what you have to say, how you're answering his question, and just showing up at every point along the journey to, as I say, not disappoint, because it could be that grand. It could even go through the system and get to your engagement, and then you bugger up at that end. But unfortunately, that's not normally the case, because we have the most control of that. And then I also like to just remind you to do the beyond. You've engaged with the client, you've given them a great service, they've loved everything you've done. Give them an opportunity to share a testimonial with you. Keep them on your database, continually engage and share information with them. Don't see them as a lost lead, that they've come through your business, they've worked with you and they're kind of moved on. Try and keep them back, because they'll always be your advocate for your brand, telling other people about you. So, sorry, I'm so passionate about customer experience. Clearly you can see it, because I see it all the time. Like, people invest in some things and then they just forget about the other things. And I'm like, guys, this is the story we're telling. We can't just do well in the beginning or the end of the book. We've got to be doing well from beginning to end.
And it's like you say, sort of consistency is key. Now, this is where things get hard and daunting, and this is why everybody starts going, no, I can't do this marketing thing. And it's even harder now, because you've got 7 seconds, if you're lucky, attention span. And you now have to go up to almost like 14 different touch points before somebody does a purchase. This is obviously the general research that's coming out at the moment. So how hard is that? You have 7 seconds to get somebody's attention. Plus, they have to come across you and interact with you about 14 times before they do the purchase. And in those 14 touch points, each one of them has to be consistently the same throughout, because they might go to point number 8 and go, no, wait, that was terrible. I'm out. I'm out for today. So yes, like you said, it's important to go through that entire journey and ensure that that consistency is there all the way through.
Yeah, awesome. Love the conversation. Sorry, I'm also throwing in lots today just because, as I said,
we're passionate about this.
We're just so passionate about marketing. So let's get on to the opinion question. Always my favorite one to finish us off. What is your opinion about digital marketing, and how is this changing the world does business?
Okay, so digital marketing is here to stay. You have to be on board. Even if you're a plumber, solopreneur in Timbuktu, you will still need to be on Google. You need to have that presence. You don't need to have fancy advertising budgets and Facebook pages and this and that and the next thing, but you have to have some form of a digital footprint. And like I said, a lot of companies no longer have offices anymore. And that used to be back in the day, that your business card, that used to give you your credibility because you've got office space, staff in there, and people can come to you for a conference and they get handed a business card and all of those kind of things. Now, we don't really get to do that as much as we used to. And a lot of companies, like I say, don't have it. The new place to do that is on digital platforms. If you're not there, you don't exist. You do not have that credibility. If you don't exist on Google, as far as the consumers are and people are concerned at the end of the day, you don't exist, and that trust is lost. So it is vitally, vitally important. You need to add it. The question is, be strategic and smart about it in your plan to do the right channels, and don't just focus on digital. There's still other avenues and other marketing channels that you can make use of that will do wonders for you. If I may, I'll do it in 1 minute, but just a quick example. I work with a company in Cape Town. They manufacture, it's basically a commodity good. Them and their competitors, it's exactly the same. There's no differentiation. And when I started working with them, they said, we just need new sales. And I worked with the business and did some needs analysis and a bit of an audit. And I realized they were sitting on a gold mine of a previous client database, previous client base.
Yeah.
That actually needed cleaning up. So they had some really bad clients that were costing them money to service. And then they had clients that they hadn't spoken to in a long time. So what we did is we repositioned them, slightly better quality, better service. We sorted out that customer journey at the end of the day. And we went back into that database. We got rid of the customers and clients that were costing them money, which are bad clients. We started focusing on the good clients and getting those ones back. And at the end of the day, it's made a huge, huge difference to their bottom line. Now, those customers are so happy with their journey and tying in, working with their database and their digital presence and all of those touch points, having gotten all of those right, those very clients that they got back that weren't happy with them 3 years ago, that were going, I will never buy from them again. They're now on board. And when they talk to other people, that word of mouth comes through and they say, hey, look, these guys, they've sorted out the game. They're a bit more expensive, but I love their quality. I love their service. I have no problems with them. You're complaining about your supplier, go to them. And that's how those new clients are starting to come through now.
Sure, that's amazing. Totally. So good points on there. Digital is the way forward. You have to be on digital. But I think a key takeout for me, what you've just mentioned, is don't forget about the other kind of traditional or more offline. So like word of mouth is not a digital platform or not a digital media, right? So let's just remember that there is digital and you need to be there, because as Chris said, Google doesn't recognize you online. Clients are not going to see you online or in existence. So be there, but also show up in other places where it fits again your market and what it is that you're trying to achieve. Awesome. Well, I think this has been a great session. I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add, but I think it's been a good, valuable session with key insights that have come out, key learnings, hopefully for the listeners as well. And I've really enjoyed myself. I think everyone can see that, right? Being
yes.
our first Friendly Friday for the year, considering I thought it would be a bit more of a drab in January into more of a February mode, but I'm definitely feeling it, and it's going to be a rocking year for us, I'm sure.
I'm sure, and for all of us. And look, I made the tagline for my business, be courageous. Now, to be courageous, you got to be vulnerable. And marketing yourself and putting yourself out there, you're vulnerable. And to go to somebody and say, I need help with this, it puts you in a vulnerable position. So all I say is just be courageous. Go and do things. Go put them out there. Rather have something than nothing. Work with those basics and get help where you need it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Well, thanks. I really appreciate your time once again. And yeah, thanks for sharing with us. It's been a great session. And just to everyone, please, if you did, give us a comment. If you liked the show, give us a comment. Go on and share it, or tell everyone about us, the power of word of mouth. And then next week, we're actually going to be going at 11 o'clock from next week due to some school run adjustments. So from next week, Friday, we're going to be going live at 11 o'clock. And I'm going to be in conversation with another marketer, Letitia from Superhero Marketing. So I think this month our theme is just going to be, let's talk about marketing. And then from next month, we'll get back into some more specifics. So thanks again, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you next week.